And for now, we're all set to begin the day with our first panel discussion where we will be talking about how winning every game is essential. Indeed, insights from Reliance's Playbook, and who better than them to share the secret mantras of not just success but being together in every present segment and how to make it win. So may I request all of you to please get set as I present to you our moderator for our first panel discussion. Let's hear it up for Mr. Rahul Arora, Head of Retail Services and Office Leasing Advisory, India, JLL. Please put your hands together as he joins us on stage. May I present to you our panelists taking it up on stage will be Mr. Harish Mehta, CEO, GOBP. Please welcome him with warm applauses. May I present to you Mr. Damodar Mal, Reliance Retail CEO, Value Formats and author, Supermarket Wala. Thank you for your presence, sir. May I also welcome Mr. Sandeep Varaganti, CEO, JioMart, Reliance Retail. Thank you so very much for joining us. What a pleasure to have you be a part of this very, very healthy discussion right here. It's time for us to introduce you to the Reliance heroes, builders of an empire, and winning every game today, insights from Reliance's Playbook. May I request you to please take a lead on this conversation?
Don't know if this is already working. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you're having a good time at the 20th edition of MAPIC. It's a fantastic space to network with your colleagues and clients from across the country. And I'm very excited to be on this panel, and I'll share a story very quickly about my relationship with Reliance. And after that, we'll get into a quick introduction with the Reliance heroes. Reliance it doesn't need an introduction. It's such a large conglomerate. And as a part of my job, when I travel across the country and across the globe, there is so much that we hear about them. It just makes us proud. So I'm really, really excited to be on this panel with the chief executives of Reliance of different businesses. After the introduction, we'll do some deep dive into what are the challenges that they're facing, what are they doing differently to make Reliance what it is. And then a surprise question that usually I ask at the end of all panels that I do, where I ask them something other than work, right, to know them personally. Sorry, but gentlemen, that is something that will come in right at the end. So stay in there, let's learn from these heroes and, let's see if there's something new that they are doing. So yeah, coming back to the anecdote, I grew up in Delhi in a joint family, and I used to hear my parents and my relatives talk about Reliance very often. Back then, at that age, didn't bother to really check what's going on. Moved to Bangalore for higher education, got a job, and got a call from my dad then saying, listen, you've got to buy an insurance policy, a health policy. And I was like, yeah, what is this kind of, now I've started earning, I want to spend all that money. I was like, no, you need to make sure that you are protected and you need to start right. That was the first lesson of financial, education from father. And then he said, open a demat account, and at the end of the month, whatever you save, buy Reliance shares. I'm not kidding. 2.5 decades, and I've been at it, and I think that was the best advice that I got, and probably one of the few things that I followed, that I heard from my parents. So thank you, and really, really excited, and that was the reason why I also agreed to do this panel. Usually, I was sharing with you all, I'm typically not on stage. I'm the backstage person, but couldn't say no to this, because it's so close to me. So let's get started. Like I shared, my name is Rahul Arora. I head the leasing business for the country at JLL. My job takes me around the globe, and I learn about different businesses, different people, and I enjoy doing that. And I have with me Mr. Harish Mehta, CEO of GOBP Mobility, JV of Reliance and BP. With an eye on net zero aspiration, Mr. Mehta has set up countrywide EV charging and gaseous fuel network to expedite customer shift to clean energy solutions. Welcome, Mr. Mehta, and I'll come to you very, very quickly. Mr. Damodar Mal, again, a very, very known name in the industry. He's the Chief Executive for Reliance Retail's Value Format and also Customer Strategy Officer for Reliance Retail Limited. Welcome, sir. He's also an author. And some of you may have read, and I have, like I promised, started reading that book, Supermarket Wala, and we'll talk about that in the next few minutes. And then Sandeep Varaganti, no guesses, as the name suggests, the tech wizard of the group. His goal is to create the world's largest and most trustworthy online marketplace by allowing millions of small and medium businesses to sell their products. He aims to make JioMart one of the largest and most preferred indigenous e-marketplaces for buyers as well as sellers. Um, I would just love to hear so much about technology. I come from Bangalore, and we are very very close to that. So yeah, coming to you as well very very soon, Sandeep. Thank you again, and let's get to the questions with Mr. Harish first.
Can I just interrupt? A request to the audio control team. The audio on the stage coming to us is very poor and echoing. Any small help will be useful. Thanks.
Equi. Yeah. So, Mr. Mehta, you are in a very niche space, building GeoBP entity from the scratch. And we've all seen lakhs and lakhs of petrol stations across the country. It's nothing new for us. But we would love to know from you, what is Reliance doing differently? Because you're known to be players in scale, players who do differently, and then you are always number one in what you do. So over to you, sir.
Yeah. At the outset, Rahul, thank you very much for inviting me for this panel. I'm very, very happy to be sharing this, stage or the platform with my colleagues from Reliance. I think, Rahul, your assessment, is correct that this fuel retailing joint venture with BP is delivering some of the industry's, first customer value propositions, which was showcased in the campaign, actually, which we ran around 6 months back. You deserve more. Let me, take you through 5 differentiators. The first, design and delivery. India is a large country and has around 95,000 fuel stations. And we are a niche player with 1,800 stations already operational now, and we have aspiration to grow to around 5,000 stations. But we engaged, Calibrate, an American company, for designing our network. And even with a small 2,000 stations, we will be able to cater to 50% of the BTKM freight movement on the Indian roads and the highways.
Wow.
That's the strength of the quality of the network we have. Secondly, on the design part, we engaged TFA of Australia for designing our fuel station, both above ground and below ground engineering. These are very spacious and future-ready stations, so that they should also be able to accommodate the road trains which are going to be plying on the Indian roads, maybe in 10, 20 years later. On the delivery side, we have 100% connected and automated network, which ensures guaranteed quality and quantity. In the last 20 years, we have been using the dispensers, which are absolutely world class, with family integrated electronics. There has not been a single case of short delivery in the last 20 years. That's the kind of, integrity our network has. And the second part, I would say that differentiator is the product innovation. Every drop of diesel and petrol which gets sold at the GeoBP mobility stations is additized, specifically for the Indian market.
Right.
We did a R&D project with the BP's product development centers at Millbrook, UK, and Bochum in Germany, wherein we exported the engines from India, from Tata, from Leyland, from Cummins, so that, these are the vehicles, these are the heavy commercial vehicles which are going to be using that diesel. So the additive, the active technology additive which we have introduced are designed bespoke for the Indian market. And as Mr. Mukesh Ambani had also talked in the AGM, we guarantee that any vehicle which uses our diesel will get guaranteed 4.3% additional mileage. And with regards to the petrol vehicles, the engine is 10x cleaner, so that we give a superior driving experience to the customers. This is the kind of product differentiation. The third, the mobile, the on-demand delivery of the diesel or the fuels. You are very familiar with the food delivery in India now. We were just talking a while ago that even in 10 minutes we are, our companies are delivering. So in this case, you can order diesel on the Fuel for You platform of GeoBP. You can make the payment online. You can track on real-time basis where the mobile fueling unit is moving. And then finally, when you get the product at your doorstep, the dispenser from the mobile fueling unit does not open unless it is in that geofence area of the customer. This ensures that it's fully, with full integrity. There is no adulteration, there is no pilferage in the product which is delivered at your doorstep. Fourthly, I would say that world-class loyalty. The bigger fleets are our bread and butter, so we have a TransConnect fleet loyalty program and industry's best performers. 40% of our diesel sales come through the TransConnect platform. For drivers, we are the only company who has launched a reward meter program because they are the key influencers in purchase of diesel. And for the B2C customers, as a Reliance, as a group, we are going to launch a coalition loyalty program so that across the purchases by the customer, he or she is able to significantly pile up the loyalty points which they can, encash. Apart from this loyalty, we have, the world-class convenience offer with, Indian roads becoming better and more travelers taking to the roads. I think finding a hygienic food on the go offer and clean washrooms is a big challenge. And we have brought in the, a MNC F&B brand, Wild Bean Cafe, which is a BP brand. They operate in 20 different countries. And this is the fastest growing cafe brand in India now. We have already, in the last 2 years, rolled out 125 stores, and it's expanding by the day. So these are some of the, very differentiated value propositions. And the, the inspiration from Chairman Reliance Industries, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, is always that we want to give the best customer experience to the Indian commuters.
Wonderful. There you have it. Big, different, just do something very better and, involve all stakeholders. You spoke about drivers as well. It's amazing to hear that. So coming to you, Mr. Mal, he spoke about retail, he spoke about what is happening at their centers. Let's pick up, what you do with value formats. How do you see your business changed in the last few years?
I'll tell you the purpose. Purpose of our business is to stay in tune with the Indian consumer. And we just heard incomes increasing, going to become a middle income. Households, when incomes increase, they express this new income through everyday small things of life.
Right.
And with our retail platform, and I would specifically talk about Smart Bazaar and smart value formats that we do, we give customers opportunity to meet their today's aspirations and discover aspirations, discover new products, discover new expressions for their income on our theater of choice that we create for them. And to do this not only for the top cities, but for the fuller India. Last week we opened a store in Arunachal Pradesh at a place called Namsai with a population of 25,000 square feet, 25,000 people. And that's the purpose. 2/3 of our stores are now in small town India. We want to be the first expression of aspiration and modern retail for the fuller India on everyday things of life, on food and things for the home and everyday fashion that people consume, and do that both physically fulfilled and digitally fulfilled.
Correct.
And that's where people like me, people like Sandeep and our teams work jointly together so that this very digitally literate Indian consumer seamlessly moves from physical shopping to digital shopping. Right. Based on what she prefers on that day, on that week. So that's how we work. There are many Indias, and therefore there are many formats that we have from at the most premium end in food, at the most premium end Fresh Pick, then Signature Fresh, and then Smart and Smart Bazaar. And then we work with the Kirana stores as well. And each of our expressions has a digital version in our portfolio. So any which way Indian consumer wants to express their incomes through consumption, we would like to be there, and we would like to learn to serve the fuller India.
Wonderful. And before I go to Sandeep, one more question. I was referring to your book, which I promised I'll buy. I bought it and I started reading it, and there's a mention about festivals and shopping, and we all know in India how festivals are very important, and we kind of ensure that that's the time when families together we are going shopping. Again, going back to pre-COVID and post-COVID, and we've been seeing a massive change post-COVID in consumption patterns. How have you seen that one thing changing? Because there's a specific mention in your book about that.
Festivals and the plethora of festivals that India has is a boon to all marketers and all retailers, which is unique to India. Two things I must say that is happening. People are celebrating a lot more, and festivals are pre-marketed consumption ideas. Yeah, you can change the name of the festival. What it means is we have different kinds of foods. We buy new clothes for ourselves.
Yes.
We give gifts to each other. We travel and visit each other.
Right.
We retailers, this is what we want our consumers to do, and our festivals do it. Nobody needs to tell people in Mumbai that you dress up and visit your friends and families during Ganpati festival. So, lot more celebrations are happening.
Right.
The one bit is we are now celebrating not just our own ethnic festival, but celebrating festivals of others as well.
Right.
Yeah. I was in Kolkata, and the number of people who are buying Pujo fashion are not just Bengalis, are all residents of Bengal are shopping because Pujo asche. Onam Sadhya
Yes.
is an important part of the food service industry in all parts of the country now.
Right.
Because people want to discover, we are getting into, in the western part of the country, we are getting into the Navratri and the Dandiya season very soon. But you'll be surprised how Dandiya has become popular across the country, everywhere. So my festivals are my tradition. Your festivals are my modernity.
Right.
And all festivals are an excuse to legitimized, mother-in-law and grandmother-approved partying time. That's what we believe. So we are grateful for festivals, and we just serve the Indian customer and pump up the mood for festivals.
Wonderful and wonderful. So let's go to Sandeep now, because he works very closely with you, which we learned today. So Sandeep, there is a lot from a real estate perspective, from retail perspective, that is happening. There is a lot of online that we keep talking about. Gen AI. There are a lot of jargons that are jargons for us, but real work for you. We would like to hear from you. How are you seeing this space, and what do you see is going to change in the mid to long term in this space?
I think in India, we are in a very, very solid space, right, when it comes to retail, when it comes to technology. What I've observed since I've been a part of the e-commerce growth story of India, right? I was in Amazon when the story started. I remember the days early in India, right? There were times where we were talking about how do we incentivize sellers to come sell on Amazon or come and sell online, right? Brands and sellers, it used to be a challenge. They wouldn't be technologically sophisticated. They wouldn't have access to laptops. They wouldn't have access to internet. That was how it was.
Right.
And I also remember when we were building the marketplace, there were talks about how do we build something like Amazon Lite, which is a lighter version of the app so that it can be accessed on 2G, right? Those were the times. This is just 10 years ago. And I understand the magic of what's happening across the country in the last 5-6 years, right? Come Jio Telecom, that's again our parent company's organization. The internet subscription has increased by leaps and bounds. In 20 years, the number of people who had access to 4G or internet in phone was around 20 crores maybe, right? That's also because of telephone subscribers. But between 2018 to 2020, the number grew 4 times, almost, right? Now almost 70 crore of India's population have access to 4G and have a smartphone, thanks to Jio, right? So the dynamics have completely changed. So has the sophistication in the consumer, brand, and seller mindset. I think going forward, the momentum will continue. What I'm really, really glad, and this I didn't have when I was outside Reliance, I didn't have this vantage view. Now, in the last 3 years, what I've noticed is while we sat there and started thinking, hey, there's going to be an e-commerce revolution, people are going to buy more and more online, it's going to be digitalized, there's going to be lower space offline, right? All of those assumptions, all of those POVs were completely squashed,
Right.
right? Now I've seen post COVID, the numbers, and DM sir has been a part of these reviews and meetings, right? Both numbers have grown. The number of people who are walking into stores have grown incredibly. At the same time, online is also growing. So India is a very, very atypical country that ways. So I'm very, very excited with this prospects. I think there's more on technology I can speak as we proceed. But I'll stop by saying that we are at a very, very important stage. As companies, there may be consolidation happening. There may be more number of companies will launch. But for consumer, for retailers, it's going to be an amazing ride. The next 10 years is going to be really good in India.
Wonderful. And I'm glad that you brought up that, we cannot paint India with the same brush as, the West or any other region. And I speak about this with all my clients, that you can't look at India as what you've done in the US or what you're doing in Europe. It is a very different country. It's 7 countries, literally 7, 8 countries in one country. So you've got to have a different strategy. And how do you think, is there a possibility that online will become bigger than offline? Because we keep hearing about that as well.
No, that's the problem here. It's a misnomer, right? It's a lot of, if you do research, I'll tell you how it happened in the West. I'll take two examples, one from the West, one from the East. If you look at what's happening in the US, the number of e-commerce, the percentage of e-commerce sales is still sub 20%.
Right.
More than 80% of retail happens offline. That's in the West, where companies like Amazon have existed for almost 3 decades now.
Right.
Take an example of China. It's again technologically advanced, they're doing stuff faster. The percentage of digital commerce in China is around 10%. Right? And this is also after they've been doing e-commerce for like 3 decades now.
Right.
E-commerce in India is just a decade old. And India as a fabric, is as a population, is more keen to go out,
Right.
touch and feel, right? The mentality, the buyer mentality in India is very, very atypical. It is not like West at all. So I think I cannot predict if online is going to overtake offline. I don't see it happening in my lifetime at least. I think there's going to be a healthy growth on both areas. The percentage of digital commerce may grow. Right now it's around 5%, that can be 10%, 20%.
Nice.
But I don't think in my lifetime I'm going to see a situation where online will overtake offline. I'm being very realistic. Though I'm in the online space, my ambition is to make it 5% to 15%. But I also have to accept the reality of how India behaves.
And that's the reason why I asked you the question. You are the offline guy, online guy. Good. Sir, coming back to you, Mr. Mehta, and we've heard, seen, and I think it's the right thing. Sustainability has come at the forefront finally. Yet we're talking about net zero, emissions and all of that. And I know that you have very big emissions around that. So I would love to hear your viewpoint, because you're in this space, right in the midst of petroleum industry. How do you see that impacting your business? How do you see the changes coming about? What are your vision plans for that space?
Yeah, absolutely. Rahul, you are right. Energy transition is absolutely inevitable worldwide, and more importantly in India, especially a country which is almost 85%, dependent on the imports. All of you are aware that 85% of the crude in India is imported from overseas. So, we are going to, as GOBP or Reliance Group company, we are going to accelerate the decarbonization of the transport value chain. That for sure. Now, we have, with this objective, we have ventured into multiple sustainable, transport fuel businesses. First is basically getting into the gaseous fuels. So apart from setting up the CNG stations, we are going to be biggest, integrated producer and retailer of the compressed biogas. Right. CBG is such a wonderful fuel. It replaces the energy which is imported, it's a substitute for that. That's number one. And number two, it solves a lot of societal problems in India. The feedstock for the CBG is basically, all waste, like say stubble which gets agri-waste which is burnt in the fields. The second, the bagasse which gets produced, in some of the factories. And third, of course, the municipal waste. In all our metros and big cities, disposal of the municipal waste is one of the biggest, I think, challenge.
Yes.
And all this can become a feedstock to a compressed biogas plant, and it produces energy which can, fire up the transport. So that's something. And we have, aspiration to put, Reliance doesn't do anything on a smaller scale, so it will go into thousands, maybe 500, 600 biogas plants. And as RIL chairman already announced that by 2025, that is next year, 55 biogas plants will already be operational. And the retailing of all of that output of those will be done through the GOBP. We are also getting into LNG retailing. We are going to set up the LNG stations, which is also a, in the direction of decarbonization. And ultimately, the diesel vehicles, which are, contributing to a lot of pollution and all, we are going to move to hydrogen-fired vehicles. Right. And Reliance is the company which is operating its first hydrogen station at Jamnagar for last close to 1.5 years. And we have a fleet of 24 buses and trucks which are on a pilot basis running between Jamnagar and Rajkot. And 180,000 kilometers of, fleet running has already happened on hydrogen as a test case. Right. And it's going to be scaled up in the times to come. Coming to the electrical mobility, again, we'll be at the forefront of accelerating the adoption of EVs in the country. All of you are aware that, there's a, the sales of the EV vehicles and multiple OEM players have also come up, and it's going to go up. And in case of EVs, one is that, the digital platform, the entire, the charging of the vehicle is through a absolutely best-in-class UI UX digital platform which we have in GOBP. You can, book the slot. You can, actually, we have an auto charge facility. Once you enroll your vehicle with GOBP, you just put the gun on the vehicle and it starts charging. Right. And we can also do the trip planning for the charging. If you are going to a 300 kilometer, 400 kilometer long intercity travel, you can choose the stations in the beginning itself where you all will stop and charge. Wow. So I think on electrical mobility, we are making large strides. And, we are I would say that the largest, the leading charge point operator with best uptime, 95% plus uptime of our chargers. And the network has the fast chargers, which is 95%. In India, the average industry, 30% chargers are only fast chargers. Where in our case, we are putting chargers so that it is for the convenience of the customers in the shortest possible time. Actually, next week, we are commissioning India's biggest and the fastest charger, 480 kilowatt charger in this premises, in the parking area of the NMMCC. Wow. You can charge a 100 kilowatt battery, a BMW or a Merc in less than half an hour's time. Wow. So this is the kind of work we are doing on the EV. And ultimately, as you said, that sustainability is our goal. And unless we switch all the electrons which are used in the EV charging from the current basically from the grid, which is largely on the coal-fired plants, to the green, it won't serve the purpose. Right. Our ambition is to, in the years to come, so that 70% of our electricity sold through the EV charging is green. We are already running our full hub at Bangalore on the green electricity supplied by the solar plant of RIL. So this is backward integration we are going to do so that the entire, to the extent possible, charging of the EVs is done through the sustainable power.
Understood. And fantastic. I mean, so you're doing biofuel, you're doing charging, you have fuel pumps that have retail in it, and so it's a full package and, with sustainability right at the forefront. Excellent. So coming back to you, sir, I'm obviously intrigued to talk more about your book, but I think we will go back to a more consumption-related question, and you mentioned that it's growing, and then there was a presentation right before this where we also heard it's going up. So what are you doing differently now for your consumer packaged good industry? What are you doing differently to maintain your niche and to create, continue creating that difference that Reliance is known for?
The biggest fuel for consumption increase is income increase. So that part in India is given. We just have to make sure that people discover this more often. So
Yes.
there are some fundamental things that we pursue. One is in the area of fresh produce.
Right.
We're participating in the entire value chain because that's a value chain in India that needs to be modernized, that needs to have more reliable flow from the growers to the consumers.
Right.
It benefits both ends. It benefits the growers who work with us. Close to 80% of all fresh produce that we buy directly from people who are growing. And our consumers get more consistent quality and we reduce waste in the process.
Right.
So that's one thing that we've been pursuing and we're consistent about it. The second bit is to be the platform where brands and consumption of tomorrow shapes. So we work with regional brands and entrepreneurs and take them national. So we become the distribution flyover. Otherwise, building distribution in India used to be a generational project.
Right.
Both e-commerce and physical modern retail actually skip that effort and take you national with less effort. I say to some of the new age entrepreneurs who work with us or even regional brands that back in the day when I was in levers, a new product in its distribution would take 15 to 20 years to cover India. Now, with slight exaggeration, all you need to do is make 10 phone calls. to
Slight exaggeration then.
to 5 or 6 digital commerce players and to 4 or 5 physical modern retail players, and your national footprint is ready. We think it's good for both entrepreneurs and brand builders, and it's also good for consumers to modernize things that they've been buying.
Right.
And for entrepreneurs to develop their brand. So we take it as, apart from the fact that we need to grow our retail format, we again, working at both ends, working at making sure that the consumers discover newer and newer categories fully branded. More so very India-specific categories,
Right.
where multinationals and global patterns don't exist, of the kind, just to state an example, that sweets, and we are in festival season, can be branded, don't have to be bought from suspect origins and things like that, can be branded, packaged in a normal manner, just the way chocolates are.
Right.
So that starts happening for the consumer, and people who have built very good products, people who have been at it, making food for India, but have not grown beyond their own regions, a few districts or a state. Those entrepreneurs and those entrepreneur families discovering the fuller potential of India is the other part that we are pursuing. Right. So it's fun when we know that on our platform, the second largest state for selling branded Mysore Pak is actually Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. Yeah.
And the second largest state for selling Kaju Katli is actually Tamil Nadu.
Wow.
Now the consumer and the demand always existed, but the entrepreneurs who are specialists from the north in Kaju Katli didn't know how to get to Tamil Nadu.
Correct.
And vice versa. I think it's both satisfying as well as we get a lot of feedback, positive feedback and encouragement from our consumers when we do things like that across the board.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic. Sandeep, coming to you and staying on the consumer product, quick commerce has become a big buzzword of late. We are hearing about 8 minutes, 10 minutes delivery promises. We also read recently that Zepto, said that they are where Amazon was a few years ago. You've been with Amazon. now you're building GeoMart. So would like to hear your perspective on this space. What do you see in this space?
So I'm a firm believer for many years, right? From the time I started my educational career to professional career, I'm a firm believer that um, consumer may not know what they want at all times, right? As retailers, as a technology professional, it is our responsible to give what they want. Even when I was building products in my career, right, I always took the next step, not just trying to take feedback from customers on what they want, but going a step ahead and giving them what they don't know they want. I think that's what's happening in the quick commerce space, right? 5 years ago, none of us ever imagined that there will be a world where grocery delivery can happen in 10 minutes. Whether 10 minutes grocery delivery is required, my personal opinion is no. It is making me lazy. I would prefer planning my groceries and getting it done in a more planned manner. But that's just my personal opinion, right? What consumers are looking for is fast deliveries, and there is a lot of action in that space. So my opinion is this, personally. Professionally, I think we are open to the challenge. I think we have the largest network of stores that DMSR has built over the last decade plus. And we are going to find a way to use the infrastructure that we've got laid out at Reliance Retail and find a way to make those products available to consumers in shorter and shorter times. So we are up to the challenge and we are already planning our path in that direction. So if consumers want it, like DM sir has mentioned a couple of times already, we will give what the consumers want, be it offline or online.
Wonderful. And stay with that. Reliance obviously is such a large behemoth, and I think people like you, senior leaders like you have built it. It's a big thing because there are senior leaders, chief executives like you, and it all boils down to good quality of people and their training. So, what I hear at least in many conversations with leaders is the biggest challenge today we are facing in the industry is how do you get good quality people, retain them, train them. How are you going about it? Because your space is really, really massive, very large, and obviously very connected. So I'll come to you after Sandeep is done.
Sure, and I can go first in that response. I think it's a very relevant question in today's times, Rahul. Uh, India, again, right, I keep going back to the country because we are in a very, very special place. The number of people are between the ages of 25 to 40 is the highest ever we've had in India, right? And that is active workforce, right? A lot of people are getting trained via education. They're getting trained in jobs, right? So it's a very, very sweet spot for India to be in. I think this will last for the next 20, 30 years at least. So from a time perspective, I think we are the best possible time for upskilling yourself and getting into careers. What I've observed is it is very important to find talent, right, with the right attitude and mindset. Yes. That is what has been the biggest learning I've had in my career. And the other stuff, which are technical skills, functional skills, are all coachable, trainable. Specifically after joining Reliance Retail, I've opened my, viewpoints to the fact that what I thought were best people may not necessarily be successful in an environment like Reliance, in a business like GeoMart, right? So it's not just tech. So how I've managed this is what we need to do for GeoMart from a tech perspective, from a product perspective, from a program, from an operations perspective. I've found talent from the industry, people with certain background. For retail experience, for category experience, I relied more on the strength that Reliance already built from workforce, from talent, from people perspective. And that was complementary. So right now what we do is we do a mix of hiring. We hire from retail, offline, people who work closely with consumers to develop that category knowledge. We complement it with people who have some kind of a tech e-commerce background, having worked in other e-commerce companies. Right. And these sets of people, when they work together, they're creating magic wonders for us. Excellent. And at Reliance, one of the things that is an advantage for us is the large size of the company itself, right? With varied experiences. And what we managed to do, it's a beautiful the way it operates, is there are no strong lines, right? I report to DM sir on multiple things. I work very closely with DM sir's teams on stuff, and been very open to share my knowledge. DM sir is one example. I've been working with him closely for the last 3 years, but there are a couple of other people in Reliance who don't have any need or a professional obligation to help me or to mentor me, but we work like that. So that's been working very well in Reliance, and that happens at all levels, all grades. We have people going from one team to other. So there's people going from my team to Agio, people coming from Agio to my team, from the grocery team to GeoMart, and it's working well for us. That fungibility is important.
Very nice.
I don't know if others agree, but I think attitude and personality matters. Technical functional skills are trainable. That we can do on job.
Absolutely, absolutely. So coming to you, because you just mentioned right at the outset that your focus on, tier 2 has been increasing over the last few years. How are you seeing this, challenge there?
I think what we are particularly proud of as our role in employment creation is for lakhs of people.
Right.
Simple, straightforward, everyday young people. We are able to create organized sector jobs. Retail stores like us are located in the communities
Right.
with low commute in the neighborhood. Our competition or our other opportunities for people who work with us as our store associates or as our delivery partner is manufacturing, which requires commute to specific industrial areas from residential areas. In retail, we are embedded in the communities.
Right.
So we create job opportunities, formal working environment, formal employment terms, and the training inputs in soft skills located very close to the communities.
Right.
Very relevant for, and we are very relevant for youngsters to have that option,
Yes.
and especially played back to us by women associates who work with us. To get a clean, safe, positive, polite working environment,
Right.
which is customer facing, is vital option for these young men and women to have. And that we believe is our opportunity, that we believe is our role.
Wonderful.
And we also look at people who work with us in our stores, people who train with us, and then move on for better education or for better prospects as a positive contribution to the society. We don't look at it as a challenge.
Yes.
Because we know, and this is played back by families of young men and women who work with us, especially when a young woman is working with us, all the inputs that we are providing, all the confidence that we are providing her, actually goes out into the family. And she's able to carry the transformation back into the family. So we see it as a larger role, a societal role that we can play as Reliance at scale. And that's what keeps us going. We keep hiring people with the right attitude. We keep training input and giving them opportunities to grow. But even if they go away, it's fine. As Reliance, we can look at it from a larger societal canvas, is what I would like to say.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Time to wrap it up now. So I'll give you just 10 seconds each for the personal question, because that is the, that's what everyone's waiting for. Just quickly, and I can't form questions because I see someone standing there and saying, go away, go away, go away. So anything that keeps you busy outside the work. 10 seconds each, and we'll start with you, sir.
Yeah. So I think one thing I would say that which is common in these Reliance leaders is that, the passion, and because we all love our job, then only we can work 12 to 14 hours a day.
Absolutely.
That's one thing. But anyway, I think to unwind, particularly if I can talk about myself, every day in the morning, hour and a half I spend with my wife having a cup of tea and talking to my two sons. Both of them are in US. So I think this is one of the biggest unwinding, activity which happens.
Excellent.
Secondly, I would say that of late I have started to focus a little more on the physical fitness, I have joined Striders. You know, they make you go through the exercise which not only makes you physical fit, but also mentally agile.
Nice.
So I think that is something, you know, very, very important. I felt that.
Excellent. Sir, quickly to you. Again, I've been shown a face.
Yeah. So, simple. Every year I try and learn something that I'm bad at. So this year thing that I'm learning that I'm bad at is to work with the audiovisual medium.
Nice.
I've written books, I've written blogs. They're all text medium. We are all taught to work with text. But I think the present and the future is all audiovisual. That's what I'm fumbling with this year.
Sandeep, I need to say thank you very quickly, but you have to go quick.
Yeah. No, I think I spend whatever spare time I have to basically have fun. I like sports, I like machines. So for the past few years, I've been riding bikes. So I go on weekend bike rides. That's how I spend my time.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. I think we could have gone for some more time if there was no disruption. So let's hear it for them, people. Thank you for your time.
Very much, Mr. Arora. That someone standing behind stage was me. I thought our hints would stay between us, right?
That's the one.
But thank you so very much, and may I request you to please present each of our speakers with wonderful gifts. We're talking about retail, we're talking about luxury, we're talking about branding. So let's use this moment to do a little bit more branding for our partners through these gifts. Thank you. It's been a pleasure listening in to the Reliance heroes out here who really have added on so much more value to the Reliance empire. It's been a pleasure having all of you join us and share with us your secret success mantras. And to thank Mr. Arora, may I please welcome Ms. Reema Punya here on stage. Thank you so very much, and for moderating this segment, our first session for the day, in such a spectacular way. Please join us for a group picture right here, and thank you so very much for being here.